Welcome back. You're watching the News Hour on Al Jazeera with me, Fuliba Tibo. A reminder of our top stories. At least 23 Palestinians working to distribute aid have been killed by Israeli airstrikes in northern Gaza. Warplanes hit their location at the Kuwait roundabout near Gaza City. The intersection is on a main road linking northern and southern Gaza. And fighting is continuing around Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza City. Israeli troops raided the complex on Monday, killing at least 50 Palestinians and detaining many others. Hundreds of people remain trapped inside the medical facility. Well, let's discuss these latest developments in Gaza with Sami Al-Arian, who's the director of the Center for Islam and Global Affairs at Istanbul Zaim University. Very good to have you with us, Mr. Al-Arian. So I wanted to get your thoughts first on the situation right now in Gaza and this Israeli military operation. We've had them in Al-Shifa once again, the medical complex in Gaza City, which is under siege. This is also a facility that they targeted early on in the conflict and targeted several times. What does it suggest to you about the military operation Israel is conducting and whether it's achieving any of its goals, if they're still targeting areas and facilities that they said had early on been under their control?
Well, at the outset, let's review what Israel is trying to achieve here. Israel has been saying all along that it wants to eliminate Hamas from Gaza. It wants to degrade the capability, the military capability of the resistance as much as possible. But there is a hidden agenda here also that Israel is trying to make Gaza unlivable. It's trying to convince the Palestinians basically to evacuate either forcefully or voluntarily. And that's what has been at work here. It's trying, if you look at Gaza today, Gaza is pretty much destroyed. Tens of thousands of people have been killed. And the starvation strategy that it's been pursuing also is designed so that Palestinians would have no hope, would despair, and then would eventually leave the Gaza Strip.
But do you feel, when you look at the situation right now, that they're achieving any of the goals that they laid out at the start of this military operation, when it comes to dismantling Hamas completely, for example?
I mean, so far they have failed. Still, there is resistance in all parts of the Gaza Strip, even though the north has been totally isolated. We still see that there is fierce resistance coming in. Netanyahu said yesterday that there are 6 battalions left of Hamas that he's trying to eliminate, and he is trying to convince the Americans that he can go in ground invasion into Rafah in order to achieve this goal. Obviously, Netanyahu has his own agenda, which is to prolong this war so that he can not be facing the trial that he is supposed to, and also to try to prolong this because I think he's preferring Trump. So he's not trying to help Biden achieve any political gains out of this longest war, by the way, against the Palestinians since the start of this conflict back in 1948.
Which brings me to my next question. I mean, we've heard warnings from the Americans against the ground invasion, the planned Israeli ground invasion on Rafah, warnings from the Qataris as well, who've been serving as mediators in ceasefire talks. Do you think Biden, you know, the strong language we've heard from the White House in recent weeks and recent days, is he really wanting Israel to stop? I mean, does he have the leverage? Does he want to use the leverage he has on Netanyahu to stop that ground invasion from happening?
It doesn't seem so, because obviously the Americans have said it over and over again that they share the goals that Israel has set for itself. The difference is really tactical more than strategic. The U.S. has also more objectives in the Middle East, which is basically to normalize relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia. And what Israel is doing now, it's making this more difficult, particularly in an election year, where you only have a few months left before everybody's going to be turned into the election cycle, which probably by the summer. So it's not, you know, it's not strategic for the U.S. to try to see more killing and more suffering for the Palestinians if they're trying to achieve this goal.
Right. On the ceasefire talks, we've had the Mossad chief who was in Doha in these indirect negotiations where the Qataris have been serving as an intermediary between Hamas and Israel. Do you think What are your thoughts? I mean, the Qataris have expressed cautious optimism that we could see a ceasefire, given that the technical teams are still here in Doha negotiating, apparently. What are your thoughts about the prospects of a ceasefire?
I just don't see the Israelis serious about these talks because actually the Hamas and the resistance has taken a step back. They agreed to the proposals that the Americans proposed, which is basically to delay all the demands that Hamas has in terms of the ceasefire negotiations, the return of the refugees from the south to the north, the withdrawal of Israel. They postponed all this to the second stage, agreeing to release less Palestinian prisoners in exchange for the Israeli captives. And yet Israel has said no to all these demands, and they're trying basically to make the resistance capitulate to all their demands, which is not going to happen. So the Israeli position has been the one that has been frustrating these negotiations. I think the resistance is not going to back down this time around because there is nothing else that they can give in.
Right. Interesting to hear your thoughts about this. Thank you very much for joining us on Al Jazeera, Mr. Sami Al-Arian. Thank you.